All right, what's up, everyone? Another new episode coming to you. Excited to be back. Thank you all for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about risk versus reward, and a couple things brought this topic to the forefront of my mind. One is a video I was tagged in on Instagram of a woman squatting while standing on dumbbells. I already went into a little rant on my Instagram about what I think of exercises like that. I won't include the rant in the show notes, but I will include the squatting video in the show notes if you want to check that out. The second one is a question that was posed to me. I was fortunate to be able to give a talk to a group of interns, socially distant interns. It's a virtual internship on the risks versus rewards, or the effectiveness of conditioning tests and performance tests. So things like the 300-yard shuttle or the 2-mile run and the 40 and the 60-yard dash, stuff like that. I will include the link to that talk also in the show notes. I think it's about 40 minutes long, maybe a little more, with the talk and a little bit of a Q&A. But one of the questions I got, and I believe it was from Cameron, it had to do with the 40-yard dash. I was talking about ways to switch it up, to maybe make it more effective for a team environment. And one of the things I brought up was head-to-head races. You've seen it in movies like Major League, where they do the head-to-head 60. We would do head-to-head 40s in high school. But he asked if putting people head-to-head would increase their risk of injury. So I thought, I had two instances within a couple days where risk versus reward kind of came to the forefront. Like, all right, this is a podcast topic. So here we are. So I'm going to talk about the trainer side first. I'm going to go trainer side and client, athlete, gym goer side. But I'm going to talk about the trainer side first, mostly because I'm a trainer. That's where my bread and butter is. So let's get into that. So as a trainer, or as a human, first and foremost, as a human, we're always balancing risk versus reward. Everything we do inherently has risk to it. Driving to work is a little riskier than walking, but the reward is get there a little bit faster. We're not tired when we get there. Don't have to deal with the elements. Stuff like that. The risk of cooking your steak medium rare versus medium well is, it's a little bit rare, I guess. You can theoretically get sick from it. The reward is your steak tastes so much better, So we're always balancing risk versus reward. As a trainer, that is, I think, doubly true. When we're writing programs for clients, when we're writing programs for athletes, when we're taking people through training sessions and workouts, stuff like that, risk versus reward should be on the forefront of our mind. And it should always be, I think always be well on the reward side. You can probably find some situations where you can get a little riskier, but the reward should always outweigh the risk. So you think things like maybe power clean high pulls versus power cleans with a catch, or trap bar deadlifts versus straight bar deadlifts. There are almost always higher reward things that you can do as a trainer. We need to keep that in mind, because we should always be putting our clients and athletes in situations to succeed. Where a lot of this initially, I think where a lot of this kind of riskier behavior comes from is us as trainers trying to put our fitness level and our goals onto our clients. We can't assume that the 45-year-old mom of two wants to deadlift 500 pounds. Now, if that is actually her goal, that's great. We can put her in, positions to succeed, fine-tuning form, coming up with a semi-periodized program to get her towards that goal. But keeping in, mind, still a mom of two, a lot of stress outside of the gym that comes with situations like that. But that's just kind of like an example. Anyway, putting them in situations to succeed by following their goals. We should have as trainers, constant communication with our clients. How do you feel? Is anything sore? What, have your goals changed? The goals from 4 weeks ago may not be the same as the goals today. So having that constant communication and trusting your client to be honest with you. There were tons of time when I was training athletes that I would get 40 minutes through a session with them and they'd be like, oh, by the way, I have a game tonight. Well, that does me no good. We've already done 40 minutes of high intensity work. Like, I can't keep 100 athletes schedule straight, so I have to trust the athlete to be able to give me that information. And eventually, you have that conversation at the times, it kind of sticks. So us as trainers, trusting them to tell us, kind of their ailments, kind of their other stressors, even if it's just poor sleep, so we can set them up to succeed. And then us as trainers got to recognize what their physical limitations are versus what their mental limitations are. We don't want to push past physical limitation. That gets way on the risk side. Pushing back, like trying to get someone to squat, all the way down like an Olympic lifter, if their hip anatomy doesn't allow it, is pushing past the physical limitation. That's going to set them up for risk of injury, set them up for potentially failing a lift, set them up for maybe these mental setbacks where you end up the client ends up just like crazy sore, their hips hurt, and like I said, maybe they injure their low back and now they can't train. So pushing past those physical limits, never a good idea. But recognizing, and as you spend more time with a client, with an athlete, with a member, recognizing what they physically can do and slowly taking them towards steps to do that. It may be a mental limitation. So one of the examples that kind of pops into my mind was when I was at GitFast, we trained this softball pitcher. She was an elite softball pitcher, 3-time conference pitcher of the year. She was just a stud, Division I. But she wanted to jump on a 36-inch box. And this is something that was well within her physical capabilities, but she had this mental block that wouldn't allow her to do it. So we've got to ease, let's start with a 24-inch, then work up to a 30-inch, then get, towards a 36-inch box. Eventually it happened. And when it happened, it was awesome. And you saw this mental barrier drop, and she could do it whenever she wanted to. So recognizing the difference between those physical and those mental limitations. And getting, kind of teetering off of that, making a little bit of a turn, getting people comfortable pushing their mental limitations starts with us not putting them in high-risk situations. They've got to trust us as trainers to do what's best for them. If we're constantly, from the start, putting them in these what they see as slightly riskier situations, they're not going to allow us to push them past their mental limitations. So they may never reach, whatever their potential is, because they see, us as trying to get them to do things they, cannot do. We got to start with those, base level training. Like I said, with the box jump, starting with a 20-inch box, a 24-inch box, whatever it may be. If we're going to get someone sprinting, starting with, just some basic skips, some A skips, some B skips, working on the mechanics, and then getting into some tempo runs, and then getting into, some full-fledged sprinting, whatever sprinting looks like for that person. I'm never going to sprint, like full-out sprint, a 60-year-old, grandma, or even, an overweight, 35-year-old man. Those risks just aren't really worth the reward, but we can get towards whatever the sprint looks like for them. So as a trainer, to kind of wrap up the trainer side of it, as a trainer, always very much on the reward side. Our job is to get people healthier and to keep people training. So we need to be greatly favoring the reward side. We don't want to do stuff because it looks cool on Instagram. We don't want to do stuff because we saw it on Instagram. We don't want our clients to do stuff because that's what we like to do. We need to take into account what they're able to do. We need to take into account what their goals are, and we need to make sure we set them up to succeed on a very reward-sided training plan. All right, so let's get over to the client side. So you're a client, you've signed up for training sessions, one-on-one group training sessions, whatever it may be. You should never feel like your trainer is putting you in a dangerous situation. You should feel, maybe you feel a little anxiety. I feel anxious when I work out sometimes. Maybe you should feel a little anxiety, but you should never feel like you're in a dangerous spot. Like, for example, if your trainer has you stand on dumbbells and tells you to squat, or the big one that went around for a long time is, I'll try and find this picture. There's someone squatting with 135 standing on a Swiss ball, a big yoga ball. That's a dangerous situation. Even standing on a ball is, a dangerous situation. So you should never feel like that's, the case. At the end of the day, you as a client are paying the trainer. So you have the final say. Now, that's not me saying to be overly demanding, right? You're paying them for their expertise. You're paying them because you've seen their work and you like what they've done with other people. You're paying them because they have this knowledge that you don't have potentially. So you don't want to just be kind of this overruling, dictator type client. Probably won't keep that trainer very long, but you have the final say. And that goes back to what I was saying with, you need to make sure you're very open with your trainer about your health history, about any stressors you have accrued in the previous 4 days, week, month, whatever, about your training goals. So you guys can be on the same team and make sure we're putting make sure your trainer is putting you in the best situation to improve. And don't, as a client, don't fear, talking to your trainer about these things. A good trainer is able to modify, and it's super important. They can modify exercise or movements if they're too hard, if they're too tiring, if they're uncomfortable for you at any given point. Let's say you went out for a bike ride with your family on Sunday, you come into training on Monday and your hamstrings are just fried. Your trainer should be able to modify that. Instead of doing deadlifts or single leg RDLs, we can find other ways to actively recover the hamstring while still getting a training effect in our lower body. Body weight movements, just get the muscles moving and a little bit stretched out. But you also have to understand that improving yourself is going to be hard, it's going to be tiring, and it's going to be uncomfortable. But at the end, the end product is going to be rewarding. You're going to find a better version of yourself. You're going to find a stronger version, a mentally healthier version. a physically healthier version of yourself. So you've got to balance as a client, what's too hard versus what's hard enough. What's too tiring versus what's tiring enough. What's uncomfortable or what's manageable. So as a client, it's almost a little bit tougher because you are kind of within yourself trying to keep you. People don't like being uncomfortable. You're trying to keep yourself from feeling like you're in these poor positions, but these poor habits. But at the end of the day, you've got to push through some of those, and that's where that mental barrier comes through. And recognizing in yourself what is a mental barrier versus what is a physical barrier. Again, I go back to that box jump. She recognized that was a mental barrier, not a physical barrier. It was uncomfortable for her to work up to that 36-inch box jump, but at the end of the day, it happened, and it was rewarding. Seeing the celebration at the end, it was rewarding for us as trainers. It was rewarding for her as an athlete. Kind of going, off of that, it is okay and encouraged to ask why you're doing something. Go ahead and ask your trainer, why am I doing this? What is this how is this pushing me towards my goal? How is this going to better me physically, mentally, whatever your goals are? What is this, where is this along our path? So your trainer should be open with, these types of questions. You should be able to, your trainer should be able to tell you exactly why they're doing it, tell you why they want it done a certain way. This is this is where, I think good trainers and bad trainers really separate themselves. I have zero issue talking to my clients about why we're doing something that specific day, or why, the exercises feel a little bit easier compared to last time. Whatever it may be, the correct answer should never be, I saw it on Instagram and I wanted to try it. Or I thought it would look cool for you to be put up and on social media. That's never the right answer. The right answer should always involve bettering you, the client. The right answer should always be progressing you forward in whatever your goals may be. I think that's a pretty good spot to kind of close it up. Again, as a client, don't be afraid to ask, why you're doing something. Recognize the physical, your physical versus your mental barriers, but realize that getting to a rewarding part in your training, whether it's your mental health, your physical health, is going to be hard. It's going to be tiring. It's going to be uncomfortable. But trusting your trainer to put your progress above their own, thoughts and training is huge. You've got to trust your trainer, and you should feel like your trainer has your best interest in mind. All right. As always, thank you guys for listening. It's also the episode will be available on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, thank you for watching. I hope my posture has been a little bit better. It's something I've focused on since I've had to watch these back. If you have any questions about risk versus reward, about why you think you're doing certain exercises, reach out to me. I've got my email, my phone number on the contact tab, and my Instagram, that's at chase.harris.performance. I also have, if you want to reach out through email, chase.harris.performance@gmail.com, or just shoot me a DM. That was a little redundant there, but it is what it is. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you all stopping by. Have a great couple weeks. I'll talk to you then. Peace.